The politician's brother-in-law stormed into my father's office, threw his feet up on the desk, and spat in his coffee. "Sign these papers," he sneered, "or I'll bury you in an unmarked grave." What he didn't know? My father had already set a trap, and it was about to destroy their entire political dynasty. If you've ever been disrespected, underestimated, or pushed around by someone who thought they were untouchable, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's dive into a tale of justice that'll leave you cheering. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Picture a small government office in a developing nation, sometime in the late 1990s. The air smells of dusty paperwork and stale coffee. Typewriters clack away, and the hum of a single ceiling fan fights the oppressive heat. This is where our hero, a man we'll call Dad, works as the head of the Agriculture Department's Infrastructure Division. He's not just any bureaucrat, he's a man of principle, raised by a farmer who dreamed of a better life for his kids. Dad clawed his way to a master's degree from the only university in the region, earning his place as the officer in charge of grants for food security warehouses. His job: review projects, approve subsidies, and ensure the region's farmers have a fighting chance against droughts and famines. Dad's life is simple but meaningful. He's got 40 staff members under him, a modest desk piled high with papers, and a reputation for honesty in a world where corruption runs deep. His hands are calloused from years of helping his own father in the fields, and his heart carries the weight of knowing how much his community depends on him. But in this story, that honesty is about to be tested. And to the antagonists, Jack, a swaggering senator who's been milking his political power for decades, and Bill, his arrogant brother-in-law who thinks he's above the law. These men are the kind of people who walk into a room and suck the air out of it. Jack's got the charm of a snake oil salesman, while Bill's got the temper of a bull and the morals of a vulture. Together, they've built a network of bribes, threats, and shady deals that's kept them untouchable until they cross paths with Dad. One ordinary morning, Dad's at his desk, sipping coffee and reviewing a stack of grant applications. Suddenly, a commotion erupts outside. He glances out the window and sees 10 shiny, expensive cars pulling up symbols of wealth in a region where most people scrape by. A group of thugs, armed with sticks and knives, shoves the unarmed security guards aside, gripping their collars and barking threats. Dad's stomach tightens. This isn't just a visit, it's an invasion. Before he can react, the office door bursts open. Bill storms in, his face flushed with entitlement, followed by a posse of goons. He introduces himself with a sneer. "I'm Bill, brother-in-law of Senator Jack. You know who I am." Without asking, he plops into Dad's chair, props his feet on the desk, and grabs the coffee and cookies meant for Dad. His men follow suit, helping themselves to the staff's snacks while shoving employees out of the way. The room feels smaller, the air heavier, as Bill's voice drips with condescension. "I'm here about a grant," he says, tossing a crumpled napkin on the floor. "My project's worth $1.5 million. You're gonna make sure I get my $300 million subsidy." Dad, ever the professional, keeps his cool. He explains the process: submit a proposal, build the warehouse, get it inspected, then apply for the grant. Simple, right? But Bill's not here for rules. His face twists in anger. "You think I need to wait? You think I'm some nobody? Approve it now, or you'll regret it." Dad stands his ground, his voice steady but his heart pounding. "That's not how it works, sir." Bill explodes, screaming that government officials like Dad are educated morons running the country into the ground. He insults Dad's intelligence, his staff, and even the farmers they serve. The staff stand frozen, their faces burning with secondhand shame. Bill storms out, vowing to return with his paperwork, but not before his thugs knock over a few chairs for good measure. Dad's hands tremble as he picks up the mess. He's seen friends lose jobs or worse for standing up to men like Bill, but something about this encounter lights a spark in him. He's not just angry, he's done being pushed around. Weeks later, a massive package arrives via the sluggish postal service Bill's project proposal. Dad dives into the documents, expecting a standard warehouse plan. Instead, he finds something alarming. The proposed warehouse is enormous, designed to store enough grain to feed 2 states for a year. The cost? A staggering $1.5 billion, with a $300 million grant from the government. For context, the largest project Dad's ever reviewed was worth $50,000. This is a different beast entirely. Suspicious? Dad calls his boss, who confirms there's no legal cap on project size or grant amount. Just process it, his boss says, sounding nervous. Dad digs deeper and discovers the warehouse isn't even designed for food storage. It's an industrial complex, meant for manufacturing goods. Confused, he contacts Dave, Bill's consultant, who brushes it off as a misunderstanding and promises to fix the plans. But Dad's gut tells him something's wrong. Why would a senator's brother-in-law build an industrial warehouse in a farming region? 2 years pass, and Dave shows up unannounced in a gleaming luxury SUV. He barges into Dad's office, daring the security guards to stop him. "I need you to inspect the warehouse today," he demands, his voice dripping with arrogance. Dad, calm but firm, explains that inspections require preparation, 2 days minimum. Dave's face darkens. "I represent Bill and Jack. You don't want to cross us. Approve it now, or you're done." Dad doesn't budge. Dave storms out, warning of consequences. When Dad finally inspects the warehouse, his suspicions are confirmed. It's a state-of-the-art industrial facility, not a grain storage unit. Shiny steel beams, climate-controlled rooms, and not a single feature for agricultural use. Dave gives a smug tour, boasting about its cutting-edge design. Dad's blood boils, but he keeps his composure. "This doesn't qualify for the grant," he says flatly. Dave's smile vanishes. He accuses Dad of fishing for a bribe, shouting that Bill and Jack are being targeted. Dad walks away, his mind racing. He knows this isn't just about a grant, it's a scam. That night, Dad can't sleep. His mind churns with questions. Why an industrial warehouse? Why the inflated cost? He calls his friend Rob, who works in the building permits agency, and asks for a favor. Rob digs through his records and uncovers a bombshell. Bill bribed his way to get permits, faked environmental clearances, and inflated the warehouse's cost to $1.5 billion when it was worth only $300 million. Worse, Jack proposed turning the region into an industrial zone, meaning the warehouse was a front to launder dirty money and secure. Government funds. Rob also finds a contract bill sent to the food storage agency. It demands exorbitant rent for storing grain, with annual increases and a 15-year payment guarantee whether the agency uses the warehouse or not. This is no mistake, it's a calculated heist. Dad's hands clench the phone as Rob shares the details. These men aren't just corrupt, they're robbing the farmers Dad swore to protect. Then Bill makes a fatal mistake. He storms into Dad's office again, this time with Dave in tow. In front of the entire staff, he unleashes a tirade. "You're nothing." He screams, his face inches from Dad's. "I live in a mansion with escort girls. You're a nobody who can't even afford one for a night." He mocks Dad's family, calling his parents abandoners who raised a failure. The staff gasp, their eyes wide with shock. Bill's thugs join in, threatening Dad at knife point. "Sign the papers or we'll bury you in garbage." They ransack the office, smashing desks and scattering papers, before giving Dad a 1-month ultimatum. Dad's face is calm, but inside he's a volcano. The insults, the threats, the disrespect, it's too much. He calls Rob that night, his voice low but resolute, on taking them down. Rob warns him to be careful, but Dad's made up his mind. This isn't just about him anymore, it's about justice for his staff, his community, and every honest person trampled by men like Bill and Jack. Dad requests a 10-day vacation, telling no one his plans. His staff think he's been abducted. When he doesn't show up, at home he locks himself in a room with 2,000 pages of documents, every permit, contract, and report tied to Bill's project. His eyes burn from lack of sleep, his fingers ache from writing, but he's relentless. He drafts a rejection letter for the grant, detailing every violation in excruciating detail. But that's just the beginning. He compiles 4 identical packages of evidence, one for his boss, one for the food storage agency to blacklist the warehouse, and 2 anonymous tips, one for the XBI, the country's equivalent of the FBI, and one for a local investigative journalist. He includes a note to the XBI mentioning that the journalist has a copy, ensuring they can't bury the case. His hands shake as he seals the envelopes, knowing he's risking his career, maybe his life. But the memory of Bill's insults and his thug's knives fuels him. Dad's assistant mails the packages, unaware of their full contents. That same day, Bill's thugs barge in, demanding to know if the gram is approved. Dad lies smoothly. It's done. The papers are mailed. Tell Bill not to worry. The thugs leave, satisfied, unaware they've been played. Asterisk, asterisk, a month later, the local newspaper drops a bombshell. Headlines scream, Senator Jack and brother-in-law Bill caught in $1.5 billion corruption scandal. The XBI raids Bill's mansion at dawn. They find him half naked, drunk, surrounded by escort girls. He's arrested for corruption, bribery, sex racketeering, money laundering, and murder. His thugs are rounded up, sentenced to life. Jack is charged with corruption and abuse of power. He makes bail, but loses his re-election bid, his political career in ashes. Years later, Bill testifies against him, landing Jack a 15-year sentence. Dave, the consultant, flees the country, a fugitive with no safe haven. The warehouse? It sits abandoned, a rotting monument to their greed. No one knows who tipped off the XBI and the journalist except Dad and Rob. Dad's boss, shaken by the scandal, takes early retirement. Dad rises to director of the agency, retiring 15 years later as a quiet hero. In his heart, Dad feels a weight lift. The insults, the threats, the knives, they're gone. He didn't just protect his honor. He saved his community from a scam that would have bled them dry. Justice, served cold, tastes sweeter than any coffee Bill stole from his desk. Sometimes, the quietest people hold the strongest resolve. Dad's story reminds us that standing up to corruption, no matter the cost, can change everything. Karma doesn't always come fast, but when it hits hard. What do you think? Would you have risked it all like Dad did? If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Want more tales of justice like this? Hit subscribe and ring that bell. We've got plenty more where this came from. Until next time, stay bold, and I'll see you in the next video.